Now let's talk about cylinder forms. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead, now my water is getting a little dirty. And let me show you. So this is my water here. It's not entirely clear and it's a little bit dirty. So what I'll do is I'll take my brush and I'll just use the dirty water. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just, using just the dirty water, I'll just brush in a layer of water. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I want the paper to absorb a little bit of water before I start painting it. Because we're working with cylinders, we'll need to have the paper have a little bit of wetness because you want it to have nice and soft edges. And by having the paper absorb the water beforehand, it makes it easier for me to kind of create these soft edges. So here's my first layer. Okay, so there's a very light tone that's being applied to the paper. And this is good too because if I'm working with an object that's lighter, I certainly want to use a lighter pencil so that these marks won't really appear. Will appear a little bit less. Okay, so we have our initial layer. Now, the light source in this case, I'm going to move that back up a little bit. So light is going to come on the left side and a little bit up top. Now, because it's coming up top, we're actually going, the top of this cylinder is actually going to be your lightest side. Right, so this area here, that's going to be lighter. Now, here's the challenge of a cylinder. Because it doesn't have distinct sides, you know, if you have a box, you can say that this is one side, two sides, and three sides. With the cylinder, you have one side, but then when you get to this area here, because it's a rounded shape, so if I were to draw a little diagram, here's a cylinder from the top view. Notice that there are no specific sides because it's a rounded shape. If you have a box, and again, this is the view from up top, bird's eye view, you have one side here, another side here, and so on and so forth. So the way you handle this is you actually divide this cylinder up into three sides. Now you can go from 3 to 5, but for this exercise, to make it simple, we're just going to do 3. So if you think of an object as having 3 sides, you end up with an object that looks something like this. See that? And let's go and draw the other side. So this is what you're looking at. 1, 2, and then the third side, right? So that's what you say it would be a 3-sided object. So if it was a 3-sided object, it'd be pretty easy. We just simply use the same method we did for the box, but with an extra layer for the third side. So that's how we actually want to think about the cylinder. Now, for an object like this, the side here is going to be a very hard, or I should say a very sharp edge. Right? If we're dealing with this sort of polygonal object, very hard, very sharp edge. So that means that edge is going to look something like this. However, we're dealing with a cylinder, so that means we're actually going to use a soft edge. Now, drawing is really all an illusion. So what we'll do here is we'll separate the, let's go 1 and let's go 2. So you have one side here, your second side here, and then your third side. But instead of using a sharp edge, right, instead of using this edge here, we're going to use a soft edge. And what you'll find is simply by doing that, because we're using the soft edge, the object will still feel like there's a sense of light, but it will also feel like it's a cylinder as well. So let's begin. So I'm going to start with the darker side, which is on the far side because my light's coming in from here. And let's add, actually, let's just add, we'll have to cover this whole thing here. Okay, so now we have this. Let's go ahead and dry it out. Okay, so now that's looking pretty good. Now let's add a second layer. Now notice how sharp that edge is. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and soften that part right there. So let's soften that edge. Okay. And then let's do that. So we did that for this side to here. Now let's do that for the final side. In fact, I think I want to soften these edges here just a tad.